In this part of our tutorial, we will declare and initialize our variables. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the text inputs and we're going to store them in variables to use in our calculation function. So we'll have to pass the text of each into a double, just like we did in iOS, and that we can use in the calculation function to actually perform our calculation. So now we have to initialize some variables to contain the text inputs. So similar to what we did in iOS, we basically took in the inputs and we stored them in a variable. Although we've kind of declared and initialized the actual text fields and the buttons and the text view themselves, we haven't given them any kind of a value. So what we want to do is we want to include this code in the click button, just like we did in iOS, so that once a button is clicked, it will take in whatever values we've actually inputted, change them to doubles, and then we can perform some kind of math on them. So let's go ahead and do that now. So I'm in the click button function in these actual curly braces here, so that when the button is clicked, it will initialize all these variables. So before we actually initialize them down here, let's first declare them up here. So these are all going to be doubles just like before. So this one, we don't want that. This one's going to be double principal investment text. In fact, this is just going to be principal investment. This one's going to be interest rate. And notice how I had the text after each of these. That was so that I could create these variables down here. So this is doubles, going to be compounds per year. This one's going to be a double, and this one's years invested. We'll create another double, and this one is going to be the final investment. Now we don't need to create a double for the button because, in fact, let's change this to text, and we'll also change it down here. There we go. Good. So again, we don't need a double for the button because that's not going to take any input except the click. So now we've declared them up here. Let's go ahead and initialize them in the click button, so that once a button is clicked, it will again take in the input and change them to variables. So we have principal investment equals, and then we're going to do exactly what we did before. So we'll do double dot parse, and it will take in the principal investment text, and it will take in the text from that field. So again, all this is doing is it's taking in whatever text is entered into the principal investment text field, and it's going to change it to a double, and it will store it in this variable. So we'll have to do this for all four of these, and then the final investment, if you remember, was in the print function, and that contained the final value. So interest rate, we'll do equals double dot parse, and this is going to take in interest rate text dot text, and same thing with compounds per year parse. And I know I'm going pretty fast, but that's just because you've already seen this before, and I'm sure you don't want to watch this all over again. This is going to be compounds per year text. And the final one is years invested, double dot parse, and this is going to take years invested text dot text. There we go. Okay, so this is very good. We have initialized our variables here. So we declared them up here, initialized them up here, and now we'll be able to actually call the final calculate final investment on these values, because this is going to take in these values, store them in these variables, so that we can actually use them in our calculation. In this part of our tutorial, we declared and initialized our variables in Android. So we did this by passing the text of each input and storing it in a variable to be used in the calculate function. So we did this in iOS before, and now we've done it in Android. By now you should be able to handle input text in Android, so pass it and store it in a variable to be able to use in calculation or manipulation or whatever you want.